Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining. Wanted to do the 18th chapter today, but before we do that, let's do a quick overview of the first 17 chapters. So, the 18th chapter is the final chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The first chapter, Arjun, who's Krishna's main man, decided he didn't want to fight due to weakness of heart. He saw on the other side his beloved grandfather, his gurus, his teachers, his cousins, his uncles. And he thought this fight was not a just cause. So he surrenders to Krishna. He asks Krishna for help. And Krishna does, immediately helps. He reveals Arjun's real identity as the spirit soul. So we are always thinking we are this body, male, female, young, old, black, white, brown. But we are none of those things. And Krishna immediately puts Arjun on the spiritual platform, explaining that we are spirit soul. The spirit soul is spiritual, is connected with the supreme spirit soul, who is Krishna. And this body is a temporary covering. Depending on our karmas, we get these different types of bodies. And then Krishna explains his duty, what he's supposed to do. And he also describes the nature of the person who does his duties. Chapter 3 talks about karma yoga. And Krishna explains how to do one's duty without attachment to the fruits, to set an example to the world, and to avoid sins. Chapter 4 talks about Jnana Yoga, transcendental knowledge. This knowledge is so important because it can help us get out of this material world, which is full of misery. It's a very temporary and miserable. So chapter 5, again, Krishna talks a bit more about karma yoga, but how to do it in practice, how to achieve detachment from this material world by attaching oneself to God consciousness in a practical way. 6th chapter, Krishna talks about the mind, Dhyan Yoga, how the mind can be our best friend or our worst enemy. And Krishna also describes how to control the mind, which is very important in this age. And Arjuna asks him a question. This age is so hard. What happens to that yogi who is not successful in reaching you? And Krishna says, don't worry. Whoever makes an attempt, he's always protected by me. So even if we don't reach there, Krishna will protect us. And ultimately, we will get there. 7th chapter is the start of Bhakti Yoga. Krishna starts to describe himself, where he can be perceived in this world, and who approaches him, who doesn't approach him. 8th chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna many questions. Throughout the Gita, actually, Arjuna asks lots of questions. So asking questions is very important. To understand is very important. Don't take anything blindly. It won't help you. Anyway, these 8 questions are answered very quickly by Krishna, at least 7 of them. And the 8th question, which is about the time of death, Krishna spends a whole chapter on discussing how important it is at the time of death to have the right consciousness. And what happens to one who does. Chapter 9, Krishna explains his inconceivable nature, the most confidential knowledge, and the value of serving him compared to serving the demigods. 10th chapter, again, Krishna describes a little bit more where he can be seen in this world. Krishna gives about 30 different places where he can be found in this world. 11th chapter, Krishna shows Arjun the universal form. So if anybody claims to be God, we should ask them, can you show us your universal form? Which is a gigantic universal form. And it proves to the world that this is God. 3rd chapter is about Bhakti Yoga. Very sweet chapter, the shortest chapter in the Gita. And it describes how Krishna is so flexible when it comes to worshipping him. It also describes the qualities that Krishna likes in his devotees. Especially, he likes it when the devotees are calm, they're steady in both a miserable situation or a happy situation. They're still very steady. Chapter 13 is the beginning of Gyan Yoga. And Arjuna again asks loads of questions about this world, and Krishna gives him lots of answers. 14th chapter, Krishna describes the three modes of material nature, Rajagun, Tamagun, Satagun, by which we are bound in this world. And we'll see a little bit more of that in chapter 18. Chapter 15, Krishna describes the spiritual world. He describes our world. He also describes who we are and how to get out of this world. Purushottam Yoga, very important chapter. Chapter 16 talks about demoniac and divine qualities. Krishna describes a little bit more detail the demoniac behavior, mentality. If we are not careful, we'll fall into the trap of having a bad mental attitude. And chapter 17 describes different types of worship, different types of food, charities, austerities, according to the three modes of material nature. So let's dive into chapter 18. So, a brief summary of the whole chapter. After systematically outlining various spiritual truths, Krishna offers his paramam vacha, his final conclusion. One should take up bhakti yoga, the most essential spiritual practice outlined in every chapter of this conversation except the first chapter. Thus, one is offered the opportunity of permanent happiness and fulfillment by the achievement of God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, considered the perfection of renunciation. So by taking up bhakti yoga, one can achieve the highest perfection and go back to the spiritual world. In such consciousness, an individual can smile in the face of all situations and circumstances, confident that the smiling Krishna is his constant companion and eternal friend. So there are a few themes in this chapter: how to work in renunciation, and the 5 causes of activity, the 3 kinds of knowledge, action, and happiness, according to the modes, Varnashram system, we'll have a look at that, and then the final message from Krishna. So any volunteers to read? Actually, Ray Bonto, why don't you read? You can read these texts. These texts are actually what Arjuna and Krishna are discussing, are speaking.
Should I go through all of them?
Yes, you can, definitely.
Text 1, Arjuna said, "O mighty round one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation." Tyaga.
Yeah.
And of the renounced order of life, sannyasa, O killer of the Kesi demon, master of the senses. Text 2, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "The giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyasa, and giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga." Text 3, some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. Text 4, O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation, O tiger among men. Renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of 3 kinds. Text 5, acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls.
Keep going.
Text 6, all these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Partha. That is my final opinion. Text 7. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Text 8. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Text 9. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Text 10. The intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work, nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work.
Yeah.
Text 11. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, but he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who is truly renounced. Text 12. For one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy.
Mhm.
Text 13. O mighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of these from me. Text 14. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul, these are the 5 factors of action. Text 15. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors.
Let's
Text
see.
16.
Yeah, good.
Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Text 17. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Text 18. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the 3 factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the 3 constituents of action.
Well, thank you so much. You read a lot there. And there's a lot of knowledge given by Krishna in these 18 verses. But we just want to take one aspect of it. And this is the aspect. One who thinks himself the only doer, not considering these 5 factors which Krishna mentions, we'll talk about that, is not very intelligent. So we shouldn't think that because of me, everything is happening, because there are other things involved. So let's have a look at this. If working in this world seems to attract karmic reaction and implicates us in a web of worldly complexity, is it not safer to give up work? So this is almost what Arjuna is saying. Why should I do anything? I might as well not do anything, because otherwise karma is going to hit me. Krishna says, no, that's not right. And he reiterates that activity is not bad per se. I'll give you an example. A policeman, his duty is to catch the robber. If he sees a robbery taking place and he doesn't act, he lets the robber free. He doesn't catch him when he has the opportunity. Then that policeman is derelict of duty. He's not doing his duty. So even though he's not acting, he's still incurring karma because he's not doing his duty. So this is the important thing to understand. Not that we avoid doing anything to avoid any bad karma. We do our duty, and now, by doing our duty, we actually lay the path for liberating ourselves, because we are doing our duty. We're doing what we're supposed to do. So activity is not bad per se. The root of entanglement is a false ego. So if we're thinking, oh yes, it's because of me, everything is happening, it's a false ego with which we perform the activity, thinking ourselves the controller and enjoyer. This is where the problem lies. In reality, there are 5 causes which bring success to any activity. So what are these 5 causes? We, the soul. And all we can do is simply desire, icha. Then there's the body. Without the body, what can we do? Then there's the senses. The senses allow us to perceive this world, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, etc. The endeavor, the effort. And of course, God, the super soul. So all these 5 are very important when anything gets done. Since we are only one of the 5, we should never have an overvalued estimation of ourselves. That's why working in a spirit of detachment, offering the fruits of labor towards a transcendental goal, one can function in this world and simultaneously remain completely aloof. So we can do things in this world, but at the same time, we have a view that whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure it benefits others. It pleases God. I don't want to do anything in isolation which only benefits me and may not please God. So the lesson to learn is understand the 5 factors of action: the soul, the body, the senses, the endeavor, and the supreme soul. All right, let's move to the next section. So we've split these into 4 themes. Lokeshwar, yes, go ahead.
Text 19. According to the 3 different modes of material nature, there are 3 kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear them from me. Text 20. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Text 21. That knowledge by which one sees that in different body there's a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. Text 22. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Text 23. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, without desire for fruitive results, is said to be in the mode of goodness. Text 24. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. Text 25. That action performed in illusion in this regard of scriptural injunctions and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Text 26. One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. Text 27. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work desire to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. Text 28. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. Text 29. O winner of wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to the 3 modes of material nature. Text 30. O son of Pita, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. Text 31. O son of Pita, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. Text 32. That understanding which considers a religion to be religion and religion to be a religion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives always in the wrong direction, or partha, is in the mode of darkness. Text 33. O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. Text 34. But that determination by which one folds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion or original. Text 35. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of darkness. Text 36. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Text 37. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to the self-realization, is said to be a happiness in the mode of goodness. Text 38. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be the nature of passion. Text 39. That happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning and to end, which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Text 40. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these modes born of material nature.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lokeshwar. You read fast, but very, very efficiently. A lot has been covered again by Krishna. Mainly, he's talking about different our different behavior patterns when it comes to our determination, our happiness, our austerities, from the point of view of the three modes of nature, Tamagun, Rajagun, Satagun. So let's pick on one thing and see if we can understand what Krishna is saying. Looking around us, the reality is that most people are deeply engrossed within this material world. Right? We all are, right? We're working, we've got family lives, we've got a social circle, so many things going on. Krishna brings this down to the three modes of material nature that entangle each person according to their individual mentality. Krishna explains how the modes influence our knowledge, our actions. So if we're in a mode of goodness, our actions will be paka, proper. In the mode of passion, we'll be running here, there, everywhere. In the mode of ignorance, we'll be totally useless. Then our understanding, our determination, and ultimately our happiness. So let's focus on this one, happiness. So Krishna explains that what seems to be poison in the beginning will become nectar in the end. Because, for example, I don't know if anybody's doing many meditation. When you start meditation, it's so hard. Mantra meditation, any meditation. It's like poison. My goodness, I'm trying to stay awake. I can't even stay awake. Can't focus my mind. It's poison. It's hard. But if we keep at it, eventually we find, oh, actually, this meditation is really good. It calms me down. It connects me with God. So that what is poison in the beginning turns into nectar in the end. And the other way around, what is nectar in the beginning, which is sense enjoying, becomes poison in the end. And the example I like to give is, if you like eating gulab jamun, you eat one gulab jamun, nice, tastes good. Second one, not bad. Third one, getting it too much. Fourth, fifth, sixth, no more, please, this is poison. So what can be enjoyable right from the beginning might turn into poison in the end, because it's trying to satisfy our senses. We're not trying to do a higher good. We're trying to enjoy. And that enjoyment has a limit. So, the third example, which is not given here, is that which is in the mode of ignorance, which is poison in the beginning and poison in the end. Somebody who likes to drink, they're addicted to drink for whatever reason. It's poison now as they're drinking, and as they continue, it's more poison. It's just poison, 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 all the way through. So we want to achieve this stage here at least. It might be difficult in the beginning, some sort of connection with God, some sort of connection with trying to study. You know, when you study, it's so hard. Right? A lot of you going through exams, it's so hard. It's poison, it's hard work. But you know you got the test. You're going to have to pass the test. When you pass the test, then you're a little bit more comfortable. Phew. So sometimes you have to put a bit of effort in order to get some result. So this is just an example. Happiness and goodness. Poison in the beginning, but it's nectar in the end. Okay, so let's go to third section now. Any volunteers to read? You just unmute and read. Maybe Kishore? Yeah, Kishore, go for it.
Yeah, I can read. Yeah. Text 41. Brahmans. Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
Brahman.
sorry.
It's
Brahmans, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudras are distinguished by the quantities. Oh, sorry, I'll start again.
Yeah.
Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras are distinguished by qualities born out of their nature in accordance with material modes or chaster of the enemy. Text 42. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Text 43. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. 44. Farming, cow protection, business are the natural work for Vaishyas. And the Shudras, there are labor and service to others. Text 45. By following these qualities of work, even every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. Text 46. By worshipping of Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. Text 47. It's better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reaction. 48. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. 49. One who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyment can obtain by practice of uh, renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. Text 50. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one can, again, O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to supreme perfection, perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in a way I shall now summarize. Text 51 to 53. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred. One who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his mind, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance, and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-reliance. Text 54. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In this state, he attempts pure devotional service unto me. Text 55. One can understand me as I am, as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kishore. So here, Krishna describes the Varnashram Dharma, and we'll talk about that now. We're expected to be aloof and unattached workers, but in reality, we have a conditioned nature influenced by the modes. Right? We're all influenced by these three modes, which implicates us in worldly life. Krishna thus explains the system of Varn Ashram, where one engages one's inherent nature in different types of works. So we all got some qualities, right? Some people are very intellectual. They like to teach. They like to, become priests. There's others who like to rule or govern or be part of the military, Kshatriyas. And then there's the others who are businessmen. And then there's people who like to work. So we all have different natures. The Brahmins are the intellectual class. Kshatriyas are the martial class. Vaishya are the mercantile. And the Shudra are the laborer class. Just because one is in one of these classes doesn't mean one is superior or inferior. Just like our body needs our head, arms, legs, stomach, the society needs the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishya, and the Shudra to function. Without the head, the body can't function. Without the Brahmins, society will struggle. Same with the Kshatriyas, same with the Vaishya, same with the Shudras. One need not artificially imitate another man's duty, but rather embrace what is natural and inborn. By engaging our nature and discharging work in the spirit of God consciousness, we purify ourselves of material propensities and live a happy and peaceful life. So we should understand, what is this Varnashram system? How does it apply to us, individually and collectively? So here you go. There's the Brahmins, there's the Kshatriya, there's a Vaishya, and there's the Shudra. Now, there's two aspects to it. That's one is Varna, the other is Ashram. Ashram is when you are born, you are a single person, brahmachari. Then you get married, grihastha. Then you enter semi-retired life, which is vanaprastha, and then sannyas, which is the final stage. So we need to try to understand, where do we fit into society? Where is my natural propensity? What am I naturally good at? It's not that one is born a Brahmin and remains a Brahmin. If one is born a Brahmin but acts like a Kshatriya, then one is a Kshatriya. by nature. That is the point. One may be born a Shudra, but if one has Brahminical qualities, then one is considered to be a Brahman. So important to understand. Now the final stage. This is the final part of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the most relishable part of the Gita. Who'd like to read?
I can read.
Okay, yes, Bharat.
Text 56. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Text 57. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Text 58. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Text 59. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. Text 60. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. Text 61. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated on as a machine made of the material energy. Text 62. O scion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal. And then do what you wish to do. Text 64. Because you are my very dear friend, I'm speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Text 65. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Text 66. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Text 67. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted, or engaged in devotional service, nor to the one who is envious of me. 68. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. Text 69. There is no servant in the world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Text 70. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me and his intelligence, by his intelligence. Text 71. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from all sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. Text 72. O son of Brata, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind, and are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? Text 73. Shall I keep going or does someone else want to read?
No, keep going. This is
I'll
the
keep
last
going.
page.
Okay, that's fine. Text 73. Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. Text 74. Sanjaya said, Thus I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. Text 75. By the mercy of Vyasa, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. Text 76. O king, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure, being thrilled at every moment. Text 77. O king, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more. and I rejoice again and again. Text 78. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's the end of the Gita. And there's some amazing verses in this part. If you look at these verses here, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. You will come to me without fail. I promise you this. Abandon all varieties of religion. Just surrender unto Krishna. He will deliver us from sin. For one who explains this secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. He comes back to Krishna. There's no servant more dear to him than this person. This is just the most incredible conclusion. And then Krishna also says to Arjuna, have you heard what I've told you? Well, have you heard? And is your ignorance now dispelled? Right? Krishna is saying to him, you can now do what you want. I have explained to you. Now it's up to you. You make up your mind what you want to do. So Krishna will never force us to do anything. He gives us this independent choice. But at the same time, he gives us good advice. Okay, let's do a look at the summary. In conclusion, all the activities, practices, and elements of spirituality are ultimately aimed at achieving pure love of God. The highest realization in transcendental knowledge is to re-establish one's eternal loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada explains in one of his purports, the most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours, he cannot help but think of Krishna. The Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. So the lesson, the final one, understand the philosophy, live the philosophy, and spread the philosophy. So first, let's understand what Gita says. And then we can live what that Gita says. And then we can share it with others as well. This is the whole idea of learning the Bhagavad Gita. Any questions? That was quite a long session because there's 78 verses in this chapter. Any questions? Any comments? Anything you'd like to know more or less? Next week, we'll have today we can't have a quiz because the girls can't join us. But next week we'll have quizzes on chapters 17 and 18, maybe even 16, I think, 16, 17, 18. And we'll also do a roundup of the lessons that we've learned or should learn from the Gita. The Gita is the most powerful scripture because it shows us how to live in this world and not get affected by the madness in this world. And I hope you found this useful exercise in doing this overview of the Bhagavad Gita. So next week is the 26th and the final session. Hope that's okay.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. We shall catch up next Sunday.
Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
everybody. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Rabanto, joining. Very nice. Hare Krishna.